Welcome back. My name is Stephanie. I'm a self-love coach, and today we're here to answer the question if you can really overcome emotional eating. And I'm not going to let you hang there in suspense and answer the question right away. Yes, you absolutely can overcome emotional eating, and at the same time, you will always be an emotional eater. Now, I know this is a little bit of a mixed message here, and today in the video, I really want to help you understand what that means, what it means to overcome emotional eating, and also what people who do not struggle with this actually do differently. Let's dive in. Every human being has the capacity to be an emotional eater. Actually, every human being is an emotional eater. That simply means that you can use food to numb your emotions and kind of just forget about them, right? You say in that moment, consciously or subconsciously, you know what, this sensation of sadness or big excitement or stress or loneliness, I don't want that right now. And I'm going to use food to kind of take the edge off. And we all can do that, and probably every human in civilized society has done that at some point. So when you are stressed at work because a deadline got pushed up, or you have a really just tight deadline on a project overall, or you have an argument with your partner, or you just feel lonely or bored, and your body kind of says, nah, I don't want that experience right now, or you've just learned in the past that this is not a great feeling to sit with and you don't want that, you can then, take the chocolate, take the ice cream, take the pizza, and say, nope, I'm going to shove that feeling back down somewhere in the deep dark corner of myself and let it kind of simmer there. And again, this is something we can all do. Everyone, each and every person on this planet is capable of doing that. Now, where it gets interesting is that obviously some of us feel like we don't have much control over this. We feel like our body is pulling the strings and making us go eat the food because it cues up all the cravings. So we're not really in control. So there's obviously a difference between those who struggle with compulsive emotional eating and those who do not. And the difference is simply that as a compulsive emotional eater, someone who just really can't control whether or not they take the food to deal with the emotions, has made a habit out of it. So that's all that is. It's a habit at the end of the day. And if you're struggling with emotional eating, meaning it's more of a compulsive thing and you're doing it way more often than you really want to, it's kind of your go-to strategy. It seems like you don't really have any other options there. And it's this automatic process that starts in your body when you're experiencing stress. So for example, let's say at work, you have a project with a really tight deadline and that causes you to be really stressed out. So you're craving some pizza. Or you have an argument with your partner and you instantly want to go for the ice cream. Or you're sitting at home one evening and you feel lonely or bored and you want to comfort yourself with some chocolate. This is just a very normal process that's happening in your body there. And it comes out of habit. You just have become so used to dealing with the uncomfortable emotions by capping them off with food. And I know you might feel like a little bit of a victim to your body because you can't control these cravings. And so many women I work with tell this to me all the time. They say like, gosh, I wish I could just stop it. But once I have the cravings, there's really no stopping it. And this is, I think, one of the pitfalls of so many people offering solutions to this and of the diet culture overall, that it kind of wants to interfere when the cravings occur. And this is super way too late, like super way too late. So having the craving and then dealing with your uncomfortable emotions with food is the very last step in these 4 stages that is the emotional eating. So I want to help you understand this a bit better here. Let's look at the 4 stages of emotional eating very briefly. First of all, you have something that stresses you out. For example, let's say you go to work and there's a meeting and it has been decided that the project you're working on now needs to be delivered a week early. So all of a sudden, you're really stressed out about the new deadline And there is thoughts that will come from this experience, like, oh my gosh, I was already on a tight deadline, I can't do this, this is not gonna work, my quality of work is gonna suffer, and so on. So you have lots of thoughts that then create certain feelings. It might be self-doubt, it might be overwhelm, might be anxiety. And then your body says, ooh, this is a lot. This is either the feelings we really don't want to experience, or it's feelings that we are experiencing to such an extent or in such an intensity that we can't really handle it or don't want to handle it. And that is then your body's cue to say, okay, we need the food, we need to numb, we need to intervene here. And then you will have the cravings, because your body will cue up the cravings for you. And then you will go and eat the cookies, the ice cream, the pizza, whatever your comfort foods are. So those are the 4 stages of emotional eating. And as you can see, the cravings and then eating the food, this is the very last part. And when you come home after a long day, and then all you can think of is go to your freezer and eat everything that's in there, this is like 12 hours after the first stressor occurred. So what's really important to notice here is that when you try to intervene at the end, this is almost impossible. But when you look at, oh, what caused it actually, and you look at your relationship with those feelings that seem so unbearable, this is where you will find your answers. The difference between someone who doesn't struggle with emotional eating and someone who does is, in one word, choice. Someone who doesn't struggle with emotional eating is someone who lets the emotion come up, let it be there, give it a stage, give it a voice, and then through that it will be processed. But with emotional eating, what we do is we numb it, we cap it off and say, nope, thank you very much, and we shove it back down. And unfortunately, when we do that, those emotions kind of pile up inside of ourselves, and this causes us all sorts of health issues further down the road. So if we can allow the feeling to come up, give it a stage, let it be there, even if it's uncomfortable for a bit, it then has the chance to be processed and move on. And no feeling ever lasts forever. It's there for a little bit. Yes, it's uncomfortable for a bit, but then it moves on. So when you are healing your emotional eating, you are not finally having enough willpower or finally learned the magic trick of what it takes to withstand the food. What we're actually learning is different choices. You have different options on how you can process your feelings, how you can allow them to come up safely, give them a stage, and then let them move on. And this can look different for every human being, and this is a huge and really joyful part of the healing process, is that you get to explore this for yourself. Because it's not like, oh, this is what you have to do. It's not a, here is the system on how you can process your feelings. But it's a bit of an experiment where you get to explore, okay, what works for me? Because for someone, it might be doing a yoga class where they can really let the feeling come up, or spending time with their pet, or painting. And then for someone else, it's doing a breathing exercise, or being super immersed in a bike ride or walk in nature. So it's different for every human being, and you get to explore this for yourself. So emotional eating is a way to deal with your emotions, numbing them, shoving them back down. And it's definitely something that's on the menu of how do I deal with my emotions. But it's just one of the options. And when we are struggling with emotional eating, usually it's our only option. And this is where the healing process comes in. And this is what emotional eating and healing that really means, is that you're learning, oh, there's choices. You will have this full menu or a tool belt full of tools, as I always refer to it, that you can choose from what you want to do with your feelings in any given moment. Healing your emotional eating essentially is letting go of the addictive behavior of the compulsive emotional eating and learning again that there are so many other ways of how you can process your feelings that have absolutely nothing to do with food. And the function to deal with your feelings by shoving them down, that will always be there. This is why I say, yes, you can heal emotional eating, but you will also always be an emotional eater, because that function, that capability will always be there, because you're human and we can all do that. And a little side note about people who do not struggle with emotional eating. So they're not smarter than you. They haven't figured out anything that you haven't figured out already. It really is a matter of having this habit of emotional eating to numb your feelings. And actually the large majority of people in a civilized society have at least one addictive behavior of how to numb their emotions. This can be drinking, it can be gambling, it can be watching Netflix for 8 hours straight. It can be doom scrolling on your phone. It can be online shopping. All sorts of behaviors that are addictive can be used, actually are being used to numb emotions. That's what they're for. They're there to take the edge off, to take us out of reality, because it seems so hard. It feels so hard that we want to escape. And so addictive behaviors are there for us to zone out of real life. And as an emotional eater, you just chose food, or maybe you didn't choose, but your body made you choose food to zone out of life by numbing your feelings with the food. And other people have other addictive behaviors. That's just how the world works. If you are now wondering, okay, I struggle with emotional eating, where do I start? How do I change this? Then I have this little exercise for you that I want to give you for the next week or so. So every time you notice that you have been engaged in emotional eating, later on when you feel better, take a piece of paper and a pen and write down, this can be just 2 or 3 minutes, write down everything that happened before the emotional eating episode, like the activities you were doing, the people you were with, the interactions you've had, anything that comes to mind that you did before that, and just write that down. There's nothing really you have to do with that. Just take notice and don't just play this out in your head. Really write this down. This helps so much. And do this over the course of 7 days or so. And you will find maybe there are patterns, maybe there are things that, repetitively are coming in. Maybe you already have a sense, maybe you start to get a feeling of, oh, this could be connected. But the really important part here is write this down. This makes such a huge difference in noticing and starting to understand what is really going on there for you and what is causing your emotional eating. If you want, put in the comments what you found most interesting from this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.